Welcome to Pop Culture Maniacs podcast. This episode, we'll be talking about the Fast and Furious franchise, and joining me instead of our usual guest of Gene Hennigan, we've got Zack Walsh instead. So, Zack, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
That's all right. You've obviously let you know that you're one of our writers at Pop Culture Maniacs. Does some good stuff. So check out his stuff. So, Joe, let's just jump straight into it. So, Fast and Furious, probably one of the unexpectedly big franchises out there at the moment. And you recently wrote an article about, both the review of Fast 9, which we will get to, and the and ranking the series as a whole.
Yes, I re-binged the whole franchise in preparation for 9. And I wrote about the experience, kind of ranking all the movies, and yeah.
So now, admittedly, I did something similar in the sense I binged all the films from 1 to Fate of the Furious. I didn't get to Hobbs and Shaw, but I'm sure I'll rewatch that at some point. So it's quite an experience to binge watch them and like that.
They're wild, and it is truly bizarre the way that it progresses because it is such an accidental franchise.
Yes. You go ahead.
No, like they clearly did not intend to be at 9 or 10 installments and be this grand in scope and scale. They start with them being illegal street racers who are stealing VCRs, and now they're globe-trotting super spies.
I know, so it's a bit ridiculous when you think about it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, because the first one was essentially seen as Point Break with street racing instead of surfers, and then obviously, as you wrote in your article, Fast and Furious. This is where it gets get very confusing, as in the 4th film was where it really sort of started the continuity proper. Maybe think of it a bit like how Mission Impossible 3 started the continuity proper of those films.
Yeah.
And sort of has just escalated from there.
Yeah. It's so they bring in Justin Lin to start directing in Tokyo Drift, and he obviously did a very good job on that film, that movie. While my least favorite is like a noticeable visual step up from 1 and 2, tonally it's very solid, and he had a large part in that. So he was involved in the pitch to kind of reinvent and soft reboot the franchise on 4, and he stuck with it up until 6, and then now he's back for 9. But he definitely is a huge aspect of why the franchise became what it did, because 4 really, it is a prequel, it is a midquel, it does a lot of table setting.
Yeah, because that's where it sort of really starts the confusing timeline, because obviously they had Han dies in Tokyo Drift, and then obviously, but he's still around for 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And sort of like the honest trailer joke, like because it's set in the future, it's all weird that Tokyo's going through some sort of retro tech phase.
Yes, everybody is very into flip phones and 2003 music, and yeah.
I thought I would go through my personal ranking then very quickly. Please. So from bottom to top. So Tokyo Drift, The Fast and the Furious.
Okay.
Too Fast, Too Furious, Fast and Furious. This is where it's going to get a bit tricky. Probably F9, The Fate of the Furious. 6, Hobbs and Shaw, 7. And 5. I don't think hopefully I haven't missed any.
No, you got them all. You got them all.
Yeah. So that's how I ranked them. And I think, we're watching number 5, and you realize, actually, this is a really good heist movie.
Yeah. We seem pretty roughly in agreement about where they all sit. Yeah, it's if you'll forgive the pun, it is ludicrous the way that that they evolve and escalate in these movies. From like 7, 8, Hobbs and Shaw, now 9, the plot is about the end of the world. Like, if the bad guy wins, then everyone will die, is the plot of the last like 4. And that was so not the case in 1, 2, and 3. It was so street level, it was so small in scale, and so it's truly absurd that they have blown up into what they have, and I am here for it.
Yeah.
I am emphatically here for it.
I think I'm sure we'll talk about it in when we get to our talk about F9 in more detail. Yeah, the franchise seems to acknowledge that it's really ludicrous at this point. There's all like as you wrote in your review, that Roman sort of wondering if he's got superhuman powers or something, or protected by God. And obviously you're like what's it, F9, they literally go into space.
Yes.
Hobbs and Shaw, they're fighting some sort of tech cult that control the media, so they can make it international manhunt on the main 2 characters.
And there are cyborgs. Idris Elba plays a cyborg.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I think with that, like with Hobbs and Shaw, they acknowledge it because it's pretty much a buddy comedy by that point. Obviously, Fate of the Furious, you had submarines smashing through ice, chasing speeding cars. Yeah, it's just. Oh, and like Jason Statham came about every time it's convenient for Furious 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so. And I've got a think it's just sort of, it's like a case at times. Well, I would say something like Fate of the Furious or Hobbs and Shaw. It's like, I describe it as like if you let a sugar high 12-year-old write a Bond film.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. The screenwriter is a toddler smashing his toy cars together. And I touched on this in, I believe, my F9 review, that if any other franchise tried the stuff that these movies do, I would be so mad. It would not work at all. But there's something about the Fast and Furious series that lets them get away with it.
Yes, because I think obviously when Bond did this sort of thing, like with Moonraker or Diamonds Are Forever or Die Another Day, it got ridiculed heavily for it.
Right. Yeah, it's viewed as like such a jump the shark moment, but like even personal like things that like get under my skin, like that all of them, that there is no sense of cohesion to their titles, that with each one they just randomly, it's a random collection of words and numbers that have no rhyme or reason compared to the last couple, and I love it. I think that's very funny.
Just make sure it has Fast or Furious, and then
exactly. How death has no meaning, that like characters that we've seen explode have now come back, and the ones who we haven't seen die, it's pretty clear that we will never see them get injured or anything, because they have gone through 9 or 10 movies where people are like throwing missiles at them and blowing up tanks, and they're completely unscathed. Yeah, so yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I would describe it as like Fast and Furious, because the way like characters return from death and all the sort of demented family drama, I'd like to describe it as Hollyoaks with a Hollywood budget. You can appropriate soap for whatever country you're from to our listeners.
It is a soap opera.
Yeah.
It is a globe-trotting soap opera.
It's also sort of like becomes sort of quite the haven for a lot of action stars. So, because obviously Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Jason Statham.
Yeah. Now we have John Cena in there. Yeah.
Yeah. and you're just thinking, who else could they add?
Yeah. Who else is a very big man?
Terry Crews.
Yeah. Yes.
And Michael Jai White, I quite like.
Mark Wahlberg hasn't been in any of these yet. That's kind of weird at this point. Yeah. There's definitely, but there's like a sort of like tone that you have to be able to go with, like the dudes from like the Expendables, for example. I don't think they would really mesh well with Fast and Furious, because Fast and Furious is so like tongue-in-cheek, like it kind of knows that it's silly at this point. So like there are some very muscular dudes who like this isn't quite their thing. Yeah, but no, it's I am excited to see who else jumps on board. They have Helen Mirren, for God's sake. Like Helen Mirren is in these movies. Helen Mirren gets in a car chase in 9.
Yeah,
it's great.
And add into the soap opera theme, because she sounds like Peggy Mitchell from EastEnders as well, with that thick Cockney accent she's doing.
Which is so funny, because Dame Helen Mirren is modeling her character after Jason Statham in the 6th sequel. That's so funny. And she really goes for it. She really commits to it. Yeah, I love that she's in these.
And you also obviously do get your prestige actors. Obviously, I know like Vanessa Kirby recently been nominated for an Oscar. I'm not sure if she won it. I don't think but she certainly was at least nominated. No.
Yeah, she was nominated.
Yeah.
Who did win this year?
I'm not sure. No one really paid attention to the Oscars this year.
Yeah, they were kind of a mess.
Yeah, obviously, Charlize Theron, she's basically a Bond villain.
Yep.
Kurt Russell in sort of like his sort of basically M from the Bond, or the director of the MIB, MIF, sorry.
Yeah.
Impossible Mission Force.
Yeah, he's like Nick Fury. He's like a shadowy fixer, kind of. Yeah. Because they had to work for someone. Like I saw it pointed out in a really brilliant article I saw where this woman just reviewed 9, having not seen the other movies. And it was about like, can you jump in on the 9th installment and make any sense of this? And she pointed out that it is very unclear who funds their missions. Like, who are they working for and why are they doing these things? And it's like, well, the answer is Kurt Russell, kind of, but like even that is very vague. Like, they just do stuff now.
Yeah, no, but there's like so like some of the mad stuff in these franchises, like in this franchise, like obviously first you sort of, when you watch it, you sort of notice how they sort of try and contort to make everything justify, like so obviously like Fast 6 justifies that they that Luke Evans' character was working with the villain from Fast and Furious. That Cypher was in cahoots, sort of running this big shadowy network, which included Luke Evans' character. And also you get the fun things like, besides from all the various characters being brought back to life, you also got like consider with Declan Shaw, that they thought they murdered their friend and colleague, yet they seem to be very willing to accept him in the Fate of the Furious at the end.
Yeah, he's just part of the group now, which I suppose is part of the rationale behind, spoilers, but it's revealed in the trailer, resurrecting the character Han in this new one, is because like I personally loved Hobbs and Shaw, but I couldn't get out of my head the entire time, like, this guy killed Han. This is not a good guy. This is not the hero. He murdered one of the family. And so now to learn that, no, he didn't. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. He can go on adventures with The Rock. We're good.
I'm just waiting for them to try and bring back Gal Gadot, but you can picture, considering she's Wonder Woman, I think they're going to have to pay a lot to get her back.
But like, rewatching all of them, her death is like the only one that was left ambiguous. like she just like falls away into the shadows and they just presume she's died, whereas we see Han explode from a million different angles in 2 separate movies.
Yes.
And they were just like, no, you didn't in 9. So sure. But yeah, they definitely, they can resurrect Gal Gadot. I liked just the way that they bring back peripheral characters from the previous movies when they can. Like in 7, the callback to Tokyo Drift with the lead guy with
Oh yeah.
Lucas Black, is that him?
Yes.
Yeah. And things like that. He returns along with Bow Wow in 9. But just like callback little cameos and stuff like that they do to try to retroactively tie all of these movies together, and they're really like Olympic feats of story stretching to make these movies one cohesive storyline. If you tried to sit down and explain the overarching plot of these movies to someone, you would sound like a lunatic. But that's part of the appeal at this point.
Yeah.
Like they went to space. Like what else can they do? Like I know the internet is rumbling about like they should cross over with Jurassic World. I'd be there for that. I'd be so down
dinosaurs.
for that. Yeah, yes. Have Vin Diesel fight a dinosaur. Yeah, because they're superheroes at this point. This is the non-comic book based comic book movie.
So because we've already mentioned it, sort of compared it to Bond and Mission Impossible. I do find it quite funny that for Vin Diesel, you know, Triple X was meant to be his spy franchise, yet
yes,
this was the one that does become his spy franchise.
Yeah.
So I think we do need to talk about it. How many civilians would have died in these movies?
That's okay. That is a really interesting point, and I did not manage to discuss it in my ranking article, but in the original one, in The Fast and the Furious, Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor, who's just a terrible cop, but he is undercover, and when the whole mission starts going to hell, he finally, they're chasing down the bad guys, and he pulls his gun and he shoots once, and the guy on the motorcycle dies, and you see it on Paul Walker's face, like, oh my God, what have I done? And he runs over to the guy and he checks his pulse, and he's like, oh my God. And like, this death is really on his conscience. And by the time we get to 5 even, they're just mowing people down with machine guns. There is no regard for human life.
No.
Which is such a jump, and it's so funny that happened, because yeah, like I watched it with my friend and my writing partner, David, and he and I, we started taking a tally of like how many people the family has killed, and by the time we got to like 6, it was impossible to determine, because they are just blowing up entire blocks.
Well, yeah, I was thinking like with 5, they're like driving around with this massive safe, and they're smashing through buildings. And if you try that in real life, there'll be a lot of squished bodies are there. And like 6, you're having tanks running over cars on the motorway. 7, you obviously drones shooting people in around LA. So yeah, God knows how many people would have died in that big, with all the cars being controlled in the Fate and the Furious.
Yep.
And obviously 9 have also added a lot to that body count as well, with cars, things getting attracted to magnets.
It's so good.
And people complain about Man of Steel with
But that's the thing. That's more to my point that I was saying. If other franchises did this, I would be upset, and I am upset when other franchises do this. But with Fast and Furious, when it's the family, I'm just like, yeah, of course, blow up that city, throw a car off a roof.
Oh, so actually, because there have already been 2 DCEU connections, we may as well make it a hat trick. So, because talk about the directors, obviously one of them being James Wan.
James Wan,
is one of his first non-horror film, and obviously he moves on to Aquaman. Justin, you sort of it started off from has-been, sort of like Ron Cohen and John Singleton, because John Singleton only ever did Boys in the Hood, and then his career went off a cliff, which was fortunate since he was only 23 when he made that film. Rob Cohen, probably best again, similar, did that Bruce Lee biopic, but after that his sort of career deteriorated, and then you get people more on the up like Justin Lin, James Wang, and then David. Not David Lynch. What's his name? Basically, the guy who did Atomic Blonde.
Leach, right?
Leach, that's it. So yeah, they're getting like.
And oh God, what's his name? The Straight Outta Compton dude, right?
F. Gary Gray.
F. Gary Gray, yeah.
So yeah, it's all like you're sort of seeing how they changed. I said directors who are has-beens to a lot of directors on the up.
Yeah, and they stop casting just like random models, and they start casting like big, again, action superstars, because the profile really rises. They, I mean, all of them uniformly since 5 moving forward have been moderately well received, whereas 1 through 4 were completely panned, and rightfully so, because they're not great movies. But like, as the franchise grew in popularity and in commercial success and critical success, it started just attracting bigger and bigger names and more like high profile performers and writers and directors and everything. And
yeah, because we would say it would start with Dwayne Johnson, who was just awesome in I think he was just awesome in Fast 5.
Oh, love it. Obviously. Now his character, he starts in 5 as like a very like Inspector Javert type guy. Like he's very like no nonsense, by the book, gruff kind of dude. And by the time we get to his spin-off Hobbs and Shaw, he's just The Rock. Like a lot of that is lost by the time we get to the spin-off, but like The Rock is still charismatic. It's still fun. Like I'll still see a movie where The Rock like fights a car or whatever.
And then obviously I was going to continue like Luke Evans, who's on the rise at that point,
right?
For 6. Jason Statham, which I think they wanted actually for Fast and Furious 6, but they ended up casting him for 7 instead.
Yeah,
Charlie,
and he's great.
Yeah,
but yeah, everything from 7 onward, all their like main antagonists are really A-list people.
Yeah,
because you've got Jason Statham and Charlize Theron and Idris Elba and now John Cena, like all people who could open a movie on their own, who are brought in for these like supporting roles in this franchise, because it's now like similar to being in a Marvel movie. This is now like a rite of passage for a certain type of performer who's just like, yeah, it's time for me to be in Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I agree with that one. It's either a good, I say, sort of prestige actor make a lot of money, or maybe like emerging actor. So obviously, like I said, we mentioned Vanessa Kirby, or because again, Game of Thrones, and more importantly, Hollyoaks, Natalie Emmanuel. I thought in Natalie Emmanuel, because in the first film she was rescued from the terrorists, and her first instance didn't actually leave a good impression since she was just screaming, but then she's moved on from there,
and now it's just part of the crew.
Yeah.
It is a bonkers franchise, and I love it.
And I think because it knows it's silly, I think at this point it's critic proof. It's like you get like these snooty, you get like these really snooty, this is stupid. Sorry, let me try that again. This is stupid, lowest common denominator garbage, and then you're thinking it. I think most fans will go, yeah, we know it's absolutely ridiculous. That's why we love it.
It's the worst thing that one of these movies can be is boring.
Yeah.
If it's not boring, then it works. Because they're live action cartoons. They're like Again, 1 through 4 have like their high points, but they're not like good movies. And that's definitely in large part to the point that they're like pretty slow moving. They're pretty like dull or dour, whereas 5 onwards are like really loud and energetic and just off the walls. And so yeah, I mean, it can be not your thing. You can think it's too stupid and just not be able to get on board with it, and that's perfectly valid. But you can't really weigh after 5. You can't really look at any one installment and be like, is this good or bad? It's just like, it is what it is. It's Fast and Furious.
Yeah, it's always got its own. It's in a league of its own, literally.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think since this seems like a good point to wrap up. So I say we'll be back in a moment, listeners, for a review of Fast 9. So